So, a very good evening and a very warm welcome to our Lyceum evening from the Paul Christian Spiritualist Church down on the south coast of the UK. Got a special added surprise tonight, the wonderful Stephen Trolland, who is a certificate holder with the SNU. He holds the CSNU and teaching certificate. And Stephen, we were just talking today, and yeah, come in, join us. So all the way from wonderful Aviemore. Good evening, Stephen.
Well, good evening, Lawrence. It's always been a privilege to be in your company and everyone here. And well, I live in Aviemore, as you know, but I'm actually up the East Coast, a little caravan park called Granny's Heel and Hame. So there's a mouthful for you.
Oh, right.
So I'm on holiday, and this is an extra surprise for me as well. A good one, of course. I'm just excited. Can't wait.
Good. We were chatting earlier on, and I'd already titled tonight in Spiritualism, Are We Missing Something? And no surprise, really. I said a few things, and Steve said, you know what, that was in my awareness today as well. So, right, well, that's it then. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Yeah, interesting topic. Shall I kick off, Steve?
Yeah, if you like.
So, okay, thank you. Yeah, what's been going through my mind? Lots of things. And one of them is in spiritualism. Obviously, today's world is changing faster and faster than we're used to. And that's quite a big thing to come to terms with. We've got all sorts of challenges on all levels of our life. But tonight, we are talking about spiritualism and its profound effects upon us. And looking, like many other places, we're finding attendances for workshops, etc., on the decline. And I know this is not just us down here in Poole. I hear it from many other churches, centres, and photos from organisations are showing the same thing. So I'm looking into it and going, well, why? Why is this? Obviously, we have the financial side, because I, like everybody else, I used to enjoy my 95p pot of yoghurt from the supermarket. I now refuse to pay £2.25 for that same pot of yoghurt. So, as I say, like everybody, yes, the cost of living, the cost of everything is going up and up. So our free resources of finances are going less and less. Get that totally, absolutely. But I think it goes a wee bit deep. Oh, hello, I'm picking up the Scottish accent. I do wonder if it goes a little bit deeper than that. I do wonder because, social media can be a real asset, can be very useful. It can also be a bit of a curse. And I do sense in conversations with people that maybe our views of spiritual just become a little bit limited, a little bit focused on the last post that we read. And, again, I always say this, we're all over 21. We're all well aware of all the upsets that go on out there between various organisations and individuals. Yes, we do know that, but we're not going to harp on those things. But I wonder if that's sort of jading our view a bit, because I do notice little waves of popularity in different aspects of various types of mediumship. And it seems, and people out there listening, if you disagree, absolutely wonderful, join in the conversation. It does seem that we have a tendency to run around trying to be this sort of medium and that sort of medium. Maybe it's the artistic side, maybe it's the trance side.
Mm-hmm.
Too many on the philosophy side, sadly. But are we chasing stuff without, when actually we really are coming into a time, and the right season as well, to be going more within and going more for our personal development? And again, this is no surprise. I've always admired Stephen's work because he does a lot of work on soul level, which I think it's fair to say that you were one of the leading exponents on this, where everybody was out to do a message service. You continued on in that vein of the self and the soul and its personal and progressive journey. So I do wonder if that is a big facet that is being neglected, is being left behind a bit. What do you think, Stephen?
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier when we spoke today as well, the experiences, if it was like everything that is spiritual that's to come to us, has to touch that part of soul self for that experience to become alive in our minds and our lives, whatever spiritual experience that is. And then we were talking about, and this is certainly not saying that we don't need that, like techniques and so on. But if we just jump on the way of the train of thought of, okay, if I do this, this is going to happen, and that's what's going to happen, and I've got it, and that's the way it's going to be. And we know that it doesn't work like that, because the soul is always evolving. Therefore, so are we. So is our psychic, our mediumship awareness, that spiritual experiences, and so on. But if we were just to jump on the train of thought, as I mentioned, of just going for what did I say a second ago? Techniques. And then what we're doing is we're putting the cart before the horse. And if what we really need, and again, it's only my opinion and through my own experience, as I've evolved, developed in my own way, is without that strength of soul self, we know that soul is a Greek name for psychic. Everyone's psychic. The more we give that, that's where all that sensitivity is. It presents to us all our spiritual experiences, as I said. But the more we give that part of us our attention, the more that can evolve and grow in strength. The more that can evolve and grow in strength, and with that bringing the strength of the spirit world, that communion, the strength of all the spirit, whatever spiritual experiences you are to have. And it's not trying to be somebody else. Yes, we can be inspired by others, but the more we get to understand our own true nature, and that's something personally that's becoming quite dear to me quite recently, as I'm pretty 100%, 99% positive that I've got ADHD and just waiting for assessments and so on. So for me to sit there and just to try and make the mind still, I've got thoughts that jump all over the place and short-term memory loss and so on. If that didn't really work for me, the most important thing that I found is giving that soul self our time. And I'll shut up in a little second, Laurie. But I remember, and a lot of people, and especially in different countries, will relate to this, that in the UK, especially more so southwards of Perth and so on, in Scotland, southwards than the UK, there's a lot more spiritual centres, churches, and all that kind of stuff, the development circles and so on. I didn't have that. Yes, we had a spiritualist church there, but I spent 9 months or so, 8 months abroad of the year. So I didn't have anything like that. I didn't have anybody, and this was before Zoom and all this kind of stuff, all this technology. Facebook was around. That was a good thing. Keep in touch with people, offer readings, and so on. But I had to give dedication to find all that part out for myself. Nobody can tell you what to do and how to do it to be that medium. They can offer opportunities for you to discover experiences, but the trueness of it all is you're discovering yourself.
Yeah, I agree. This has been a thought of mine going on now for a few months, that again, in my opinion, and again, if people out there disagree or wish to comment, please do. But I think we have an awful lot of mention of the pioneers, and I'm not decrying any of them by any means, because they had a job to do in a very different world to today's world, and they did it wonderfully well. But again, with the pioneers, we do tend to say about, oh, their mediumship was marvelous, their mediumship was this, their mediumship was that. But I often wonder, what about those people? What about the people themselves? What about the medium themselves? Not their work. How were they? And I would assume, and again, if I'm incorrect and anybody knows different, absolutely tell me, that when we go back to the time of Gordon Higginson, Albert Best, etc., apart from the ones who were working full time, I mean, Albert Best was a postman, if memory serves me correct. But out of that time, they probably wouldn't have had access to the amount of churches and centres we've got today. Most certainly did not have any access on the virtual world as we got today. So they would have been sitting themselves. They would have just been sat themselves, with the odd occasion sitting in circles with others. But a lot of their development would have been based on their own personal growth. Now that fits with me. It feels right to me. And it also feels right and supports what I'm sensing in today's world, is that, as we, Stephen so wonderfully put it, the cart before the horse, that so many people are learning mediumship. And let's be honest, mediumship is a faculty. It's a bit like driving a car. All right, and we're not gifted. We weren't touched at birth. This is my opinion. It's a faculty that developed. It was in my soul's journey and soul's plan to experience, and I'm so glad that I took it up. I could have said no. But it is a faculty at the end of the day. Just performing acts of mediumship, this is going to probably not go down well with some people. It's not good enough. You've got this wonderful opportunity to develop yourself. I think a thing a lot of working mediums do tend to neglect is the I. We're very quick if we get a phone call. Can you do this service? Can you do this? Can you do that? Yes, yes, yes. But, I would ask, there's a few mediums out in the room tonight, so welcome, welcome. How do you develop yourself off of the platform, away from the public eye? Do you devote time? Do you sit in the power? Do you sit in development circle? Whatever, it'd be interesting to hear if people do engage with this, because, as I say, us mediums, we're not special, and we've got lessons to learn. And I strongly believe that this is one of the greatest lessons of the working medium, is to find that balance, because balance to me is everything. Balance is the fundamental issue with so many issues that we have in our world and in our lives, that we're out of balance. So, what are we doing? And what are we doing to support who are going to be the pioneers of today and tomorrow? Because that is a really important question. We cannot keep going back to the 1930s all the time. What are we going to be doing in, what are we now, 2024? What are we going to be doing in 2074? Are we still going to be going back to the 30s? I sincerely hope not. So we have a question. Lovely Angela Foster. Good evening, my darling. And Angela is saying, unfortunately, the concept of self-awareness still seems new age. Until people start to experience the power of looking within, they cannot even begin to realize the benefits in mental health for most, and a deeper connection with that which we realize we are an intrinsic part of. Unfortunately, finding the key to beginning that journey has to be deeply personal and appropriate for us as an individual. It is not a standardized process by sitting cross-legged going on and hoping for a miracle. Yeah. Wonderful. There was more. We've run out of letters there, Anne.
It is space, aye.
Yeah.
One thing again, I can only really speak from my experiences as well, and I guess it kind of helps give others food for thought, is when I had incredible spiritual experiences, say with the spirit world, for example, I didn't sit beforehand and say, okay, where are you? I didn't try and go somewhere in my mind to make that happen, or give a command of any kind. If I do this, this is going to happen. These just came to me. And what I guess, in some sense, all I was doing is being open to that, open to the possibilities of that. And as they came close and they give incredible experiences, personal to me as well, what they're really saying in some way is, okay, you are a medium, go away and work at it. And by working at it is really meaning working on self, working at self as well.
Yeah. It's just occurred to me, and apologies, everybody, if I look a little bit distracted at times. I've got a very nervous pussycat under the coffee table here because it's firework night and she's not a happy bunny. So I do apologise if I keep looking away. And Stephen, if I say it's all right, Daddy's here, that's not aimed at you, all right?
Okay.
But a thought just occurred to me, which can be dangerous live on air. How often do we hear, or indeed have we said, oh, the spirit world have changed the way they're working with us again? Do you know what? I've just had this thought. Have the spirit world changed their way of working, or have we changed the way we're working? Ooh, I like that.
Look, the soul is always evolving in this life and into the next life, or should I say next space of awareness to us. And I was going to say something else there, but that little thought that drifts away. That was a good one as well. Dash. I'll get that back in a little second. I will. What did I just say there? What did I just say? Sorry, my ADHD brain's popping in again.
That's all right. But we were following on with that thought, about because we're very quick to disassociate ourselves with the spirit world and make it at arm's length a lot of the time and make it separate to us. when actually, you know, I profoundly believe this. Where is the spirit world? Well, the spirit world is within me as I am within it.
Yeah. And it came back again, funnily enough, when the conscious mind wasn't looking for it. The soul self brings it to the surface. And it was, as I mentioned, the soul is always evolving, it's always changing. And many times I say to people, in like when I'm taking a workshop or something like that in a teaching environment, never look for the same experience twice, because that time has come and gone. That time has come and gone. And because if we do that, all we're doing is we're not leaving space for new experiences to come in. The mind itself, what we're looking for is to walk in harmony with that soul self so it can present new experiences, and also the spirit world that evolves with us. Well, I should say the spirit world is evolving all the time, but I guess the more we evolve, the more in harmony we become in that of that part with them, that they can share more experiences with us. You ever wonder why don't they tell us like the biggest cure for cancer and that's going to be it, it's never going to be there anymore? Is it down to our perceptions, the evolving the limitations that we hold for ourselves and so on? Or should I say that soul self to be able to, as I say, evolve, but grow in strength, but evolve that much that we can reach for something greater? You wonder where all these amazing ideas come from, like with scientists and so on, because where's all the inspiration coming from? It's coming from the soul. You see, one step leads to another, opens up a new door as they find out something amazing, and then more possibilities come into that space. And I guess it's the same with mediumship as well, and or should I say spiritual awareness rather than just mediumship.
Very, very true. Lovely Matt joining us from YouTube. Good evening, Matt. And he's saying, good evening, gents. Feels now more than ever we are so inundated by stuff and stimuli in our world. It's harder than ever to find that space time to go within. Yeah, it is very true, Matt. And we're also very good at building a schedule up, aren't we? We're always very good at incorporating busy times and filling our time, but without making that. Because I say to people, you know, you can do 5 minutes meditation a day. Oh, I don't know. I'll come off it. Seriously, set your alarm clock half an hour early. Yeah.
I remember that. I still do it sometimes, but I've been getting up at like 5:45 in the morning so I can make sure I had that hour to sit in some way. I guess because a coffee helps, but to stop the body in itself can go into like a sleep state, but the mind can still be aware. So you're holding a space. But at the same time, I always felt a lot better, and still do. When I do it, I feel a lot better for that time sitting, more so than sleeping.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We just recently had the wonderful Frederick staying here, and he sits every morning for about 20 minutes, which rather embarrassed me because I don't. But since he's gone, I do make time, but it's sporadic. And watching other people's dedication and focus, I just thought, yeah, Lawrence, buck your ideas up and start doing that. So a few more comments coming in. Lovely Gail. And she's going back to the part about, you know, is it the other world changing their use of us, or is it us changing the way in which we communicate? And she responds, I think spirit are constant. Maybe it's us that isn't. Yeah, That is fascinating. I sat with my team a little while back and I asked the question, why do we not see the level of mediumship demonstrated today as we did do in the 30s? And the answer was very simple. They said, we have not changed. And I went, you crafty so-and-sos, I know exactly what you're saying. So again, it's leading back to this development of self. Angela Foster. To me, it doesn't really matter, but the effect is that we can keep moving forward. If one way that we connect either has stopped moving us forward, then another way will become apparent, either from our own soul's volition or the spirit world having a more global insight into what we may need and not want. Very true. Very true.
Definitely.
And a quick hello there from Sydney, lovely Belinda. She was in the UK a little while back, and she come to Paul Church. She's great. Everybody needs a Belinda in their life, I tell you. She's amazing. So good morning, darling. But yeah, this is getting very interesting now. I love these evenings that self-empowered and self-generating. But Stephen, you've been working on soul level for a long, long time, have you not?
Well, I didn't even realise it at the time. I guess everyone is. It just depends on how much in harmony our mind's awareness is in synchronicity with the soul in some way. What is taking precedency within an awareness that's dampening that soul experience? The business, as I can't remember, said, the business of our world, this material world, certainly. I mean, I've got a 5-year-old boy, and that's only one. And I guess there's a lot of people that have had many more children and so on. It'd be really exciting to find out that. How did you find your time? How do you find what happened with yourself, and how your spiritual journey fell into place? Did it feel as if it was falling away in some way, and then come back again as the busyness comes and goes? I know, I can only speak for myself. Is again, it's just. I mean, I know there's this saying, heal the soul. I do not believe that's true. I believe it's the purity and the beauty within the expression of the soul that heals the mind, and therefore our lives, changes our perceptions, our perspectives, and everything. It allows our awareness to grow with it and show what's incredible around us. That is just... you see, that there's you might have heard me saying this before. It's just one tiny little thing. Is there was tests done on a primrose and a bee, and every time the buzzing of the bee came close to the primrose, it increased the sugar within its nectar by 30%. And I found that just fascinating. And it's an expression of life. And did we see that with our physical eyes? All that kind of, how much is around us all the time that our soul is connected to and aware of? And that's what is a part of me, is what keeps driving me. And personally, I have to sit every morning. Otherwise, I go a little bit grumpy about my day. That healing part of mine, it's not there. There's that edginess, because I know I'm missing something more beautiful than going to the shops and that person in front of me in the cars just doing my head, and that kind of stuff, that road rage kicks in. And funnily enough, as if I was driving to go and pick up my boy, for example, from school, and this attitude would be there if I've not sat properly. I didn't give enough time for that. But if I get there early enough and I sit for a little while on the way home, it's just, everything's just more just going with the flow. And if we can do that, go with the flow in some sense, and then we're moving with the rhythm of life in some way, I guess. I hope I'm making sense in some way.
Yeah, no, perfect sense.
We're just aware of it.
Yeah, definitely. Quick hello. Lovely Craig Morris. Good evening,
Craig.
sir.
Hi,
Yeah,
Craig.
nice to catch you in for an evening, Craig. It must be a novelty for you. But yeah, I do like what you said. I did have to laugh because do you know what? The number of mediums who have been in their car, and I don't know if it's down to the sensitivity, but yeah, I've experienced some right yeah, there was one of our healers gave us a lift, and halfway round, I was going to just bail. I don't care if they stop. I just thought I've had enough of this. I'm off. But yeah, the that's wonderful as well about the bee and the flower. That is beautiful. I shared. Sorry.
So I was going to, you just wonder how much is around us that we're just not consciously aware of. That beauty is there everywhere.
Definitely. Definitely. And from
still to be found out.
From the human mind side, again, fair to say, all right, we're just coming in now. This getting dark at 5 o'clock is just nonsense. I'm sorry. It's absolutely ridiculous. This brings us down. We're coming into the winter, so we start to feel down. And then this is bolstered by, as again, what I say, our very narrow perception of a beautiful movement, philosophy, whatever you want to call it, religion, spiritualism, is a bit blinkered because we take in all this negativity that's going on out there in the news. I shared tonight a quick reel of tens of thousands of people out in Spain just rocking up to go and help out those areas hit by the flooding. Now, these are just people, right? There was no marshalling, there was no orders given, or any. People just turned out because they wanted to help. Do you know what? That really struck a chord in me. You know, these are the things we should be giving our attention to. These are the things we want to harmonize with that energy. What an amazing, wonderful thing to do. Yet, what happens in our news, and again, unfortunately, on our social media, we get the negative side of it, and we do allow that into our consciousness and energy a lot. And, you know.
You wonder, you know, we get cookies on Facebook, or you click on that, whatever, and then the next thing you know, down your feed later, that there's loads of that thing that you've clicked on. If we think of our thoughts, our seed of thoughts is like, if we create something there, I wonder what cookies are going to follow. I wonder what other thoughts are going to follow afterwards.
Yeah, very true. I think a lot of it boils down to is how we respond to things rather than react. Lovely Angela, and she's saying, surely the soul has and is all it needs to be. The challenge is to use what we have to our full potential. All the ingredients are there. It's up to us to create that perfect meal. So that was following on from what you were saying about the soul. And again, you know, you've got that balance in there. When we become, you know, it's like past, present, and future. Can we change the past? Yes or no? No.
No.
Can we anticipate the future? Yeah, we might have ideas, we might have thinks and thoughts, but we can't actually predict it 100% because we've got so many variables like people. So there is only one time really, and that is now. The past is gone. That doesn't exist anymore. Only a memory. The future hasn't existed yet. So we are only in the now. And it's how we respond, how we interact with this world and people around us and ourselves.
Ourselves, definitely. I remember it was years ago. I think it was my second ever second ever spirit service that I went to, and I remember the medium, but I can't remember her name. But the medium stood up to do the philosophy. He says, I have been through so much in my life, so much, and guess what? Half of it hasn't happened. Because therefore, how much do our worries create stories, and how much do our anticipation of that creates fear? And just as you say, it's like what's, I guess we're talking about cookies and thoughts and so on. If we can be in the present here now and appreciate that moment, I wonder what thoughts would follow. But through the uniqueness of that person. I was going to say medium, but yes, that's true. That's true as well, through that soul self, I would say as well.
Yeah. Comments coming in. Lovely Belinda, and she's saying it's like that song from Sweet Charity, The Rhythm of Life.
Rhythm of life.
Powerful thing, puts a tingle in our fingers, and tingle in our feet. It's a powerful thing. And it is. It really is. And I believe very, very strongly that the more we learn to be in that presence, in the moment, in that time, do you know what? The only thing that's limiting what we can do is here.
And from sitting with self, that inner part of us, that sacredness, that's like when you are without, again, as I mentioned, the wants and demands and so on, but just being open. It's like what, even putting the question and being open in the sense of like, what do you need to be fulfilled to that soul self? And without expecting answers, just sitting, just to be. I know just being in that space, again, that experience of sacredness, of where all the troubles of the world, every trouble, all the troubles are, nothing is making a dent within your awareness. Nothing is touching that beautiful space and changing it, where all we're left with is just pure beauty. And that's what you are. That's what everybody is. And if we can really give time for that, I guess in some way, it's only my explanation and my thoughts of, it's like allowing the body to fall asleep, but the mind can be aware. And that's it. It's just being aware, being a silent observer without interacting with those thoughts. And over time, that train of thoughts will start to soften. Therefore, the everyday influences of our crazy world soften within our awareness. And that beauty that you truly are will shine upon the mind and just show you how incredible you are.
Yeah. Lovely Belinda had already picked up on what you had said. Must be a medium, Belinda. And she's saying whatever is going on in the greater world, we need to hold steady in our personal world. If we could all do this, we could change the outer world. And do you know what? So true. Really is. Lovely Gail saying, I spent the day with my great niece, who's 5 years old, yesterday, totally in the now. Today, it made me realize how much time I spent in the past or future. Such a waste of time and energy. Spending time with children makes you realize this. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. But that brings it back rather nicely to our field, what we are here for this night, and that is about spiritualism. And again, I think we must be some kind of naive if we never think that we as spiritualists and the movement of spiritualism isn't going to go through these turbulent times, as is every other facet of our life. But again, you know, it's the development of self. I'm pretty sure that if more time and more effort have been poured into development of self over the last 30 years, rather than how to make a link or how to draw a picture, you know, and I'm not decrying these things. I'm not decrying them at all. But I just feel like it's been overemphasized, the skills, but not actually the maturity behind the hand. Ooh, I like that. I don't know where that came from, but that can come back. It's not the skills, it's the maturity behind the hand. It's interesting. But yeah, I wonder, where would spiritualism be today had we continued with that great path of self-development? Without the fanfare, without the fame or the riches, because, you know, I know you'll drive around in a Mercedes, Steve, and I holiday 4 times a year in Barbados.
My van's just out of the garage. It's been there for 2 months and it's still broken.
Well, I've got 3 nights in Scotland and I'm working. That's my holiday.
I'm very welcome a Mercedes. Anything will do.
I get your bike.
A go-kart. One of that go-karts that you had when you were young, when you were in school, when you went through a hedge.
Yeah. Right. I had no fear. Do you know what? That is really interesting. I'll share this story. Obviously, I've shared it with Stephen. I was in our metalwork class and we were building a go-kart, a functioning go-kart, and it covered all the topics that we needed to cover. It had mechanics in it and welding. Imagine me welding, I know. All sorts. And I was an odd child, which is no surprise that I've grown up to be an odd human being, but I was an odd child. And where everybody else was all really gung-ho and into this go-kart, I was just like, okay, I'll do it. I need the grades, and that's about it. And when it came to actually using it, there's everybody, you know, oh, I'm going to be first, I'm going to do this, and they're all driving around, and, you know, they were taking like half an hour to get around a football pitch and stuff like that. I just didn't care. I just got in it and just put my foot down. I was doing really well. I'd beaten everybody until the last bend where I decided I didn't want to turn right. I'd just go straight through the hedge in front of me. But it was mindset. That's where I'm going. This story does have a point. Seriously, it does. Don't laugh, Stephen. You brought it up. But it was the mindset behind it. I was just in that, yeah, let's do this. And it was great fun. And here I am, quite a few years later, still talking and still laughing about it. So, yeah, mindset is a huge, huge asset to us. Not only in our spiritual life, but our everyday life. You know, if we get up in the morning and think, oh, God, today's going to be bloody awful, guess what? Even if you win the lottery, you're going to find fault with it. So, Angela, unfortunately, we don't realise to look after our own temple first. Take the oxygen first before we can make an impact of that which is outside of us. Yeah. And how many times do we need reminding of this? We know this. You know, it's a bit like, all right, fast foods. We know processed foods are so bad for us. And we go out and buy it. What is this in the human psyche? What is this? It's interesting. What is this? We know it's not good for us. We know that we can improve if we do certain things. So what holds us back? Oh, there's a question.
There was what I believe is that when we accept that true nature of self, as the spirit world will, if we are to have communication with the spirit world and so on. We're looking at the techniques and what's natural and so on. But they'll explain it in some way that is understandable to you as a unique individual. I remember years ago when I was contemplating this for a little while, and then it explained it in the sense of when I'm snowboarding, say when I was in competition, my first few runs in the morning where I didn't have to think. I would just look and I would go. Everything was so natural. I just, if I want to go that way, I'll go that way. And whatever slope came across, I was able to do it. But as the legs started to get tired, see, that's where it was natural. But as the legs started to get tired, for example, that's when I had to focus upon technique a lot more. I had to think about it a lot more. Therefore, the conscious mind came in a lot more. And then I guess that's what they were saying. It's like the naturalness is there first, and then that which is of self, which is the nature of you, however, whoever you are. And then if techniques start to come into however you perceive life, if it's in your mediumship or wherever it is, and then techniques can come in then. But I would say, is do what is natural to you first. Therefore, you're not putting the cart before the horse, and therefore the over time, that technique that we think of, when we have to do it, if we're doing it right, we know that feeling as it comes is right because it works. That will become natural to you as well. And I guess that's our growth in life and how we can, our outlook upon life in some way as well, I guess. I'm just blethering away here.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Just a quick hello to a couple of lovely ladies. Lovely Susie Woodley.
Susie Woodley.
Hello, darling. And lovely lady from Holland, Esmeralda. How are you, darling? Lovely to see you. So the question was, why do we do this to ourselves? And really annoyingly, Angela Foster has actually answered it in 2 words. And it's really annoying, Angela. But it's true. Instant gratification. And it is, isn't it? We look for the shortcuts a lot. Yeah. With our food. Do we go out and peel spuds and do all this, or do we just phone up the chippy? In our mediumship, do we just get the bare necessities there? Sorry, excuse me. Right. Oh, she's not having a good time. Do we just go for the bare necessities of things without the reflective practices, which is something Angela teaches wonderfully? So you've been out there, you've been a medium tonight. So what does that mean to you? What has that brought in? How has this enriched your life? How has this progressed your pathway? How has this, nourished the soul? Rather than coming out, and which we all do, all us mediums, we all need a good kick up the derriere, because we all come on platform, don't we, going, oh, I didn't do this, and I didn't do that, and I didn't do this. I wish I'd said that. Would you agree, Steve?
Aye, I do that a lot. Yeah. I guess in some way we get growth from it, but at the same time, that's when my wife comes in to play and says, stop knocking yourself down.
Exactly.
Stop beating yourself up. As long as we don't do that. And then at the same time, just trying not to, if the answer comes to whatever happens in that service, in that reading, whatever it is, if the answer comes, that's great. If it doesn't, I guess you can contemplate it a little bit, but to try not forcefully look for it, because therefore you might make something up that might not be there. It's just put that question, just surrender that question, and then in time. It will evolve. It's planting a seed of thought. It's planting that click on Facebook, as I mentioned before, for that cookies to follow,
Yeah.
for that to present, that thoughts to follow, to present itself.
Definitely. I mean, it's good to have a trusted critique of our works at times. I used to have a thing when I was in the railways, and this really used to annoy people, but I stuck by it. The department I ran was always under heavy criticism when I took it over, all the time. So I just started saying, right, every criticism you come up with, you've got to come up with a compliment. Otherwise, you get nothing from here. My bosses went mad when they found out. But I said, no, because everybody's walking up, they're getting what they want, but they're criticising, walking away, going, oh, you know, and I always say negativity is a very lazy energy. And the good thing about being a lazy energy, it's very fast to dissipate if we so choose. But unfortunately, today's world, we don't choose not to dissipate it. We choose to hold on to it and keep feeding it, which is so sad. Positive energy takes constructive thought, takes action, takes response, takes all the energetic side of us, spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally. But it's a much more powerful effect. It's a much more powerful energy. You know, when you get somebody who gives you a heartfelt compliment, unless you're like me and you just, every time somebody compliments you, you just want to cringe and go and hide under the table. They don't talk to me ever again. Which is probably not very healthy.
I love what Belinda is saying there. Everything changed for her when I decided I was enough. That's beautifully.
And again, she walked. You know, I'm going to embarrass you now, Belinda. You're sat there spitting out cornflakes, no doubt, and gin. Sorry, I'm joking, everybody. Dipping a toast in a whiskey. No, but you know, she's got this.
Oh man.
She's going to talk to you again. She's got an amazing presence when she walks in. She just said,
"No cornflakes." So does that mean? So does that mean she's got gin and whiskey?
Yeah. But she has.
I'm only joking.
Great personality about her. And I dare say, you know, some people will find that a bit challenging because some people don't want to move out of that negative side of things because they don't even realize they're stuck in that loop. You know, because I'm sure you get this. Lovely Susan. Hello, darling. It's a funny story about Susan. I'll tell that in a minute. Where was I? Yeah, the negative side. Because a lot of people get stuck in this negative side because it is easy. And then they don't actually realize what they're doing. I was reminded, I'm working on a project at the moment for the church, and it involves where we pledge the money for all the items for us to do the Christmas Day lunch. So people can spend from £1 for a jar of gravy granules up to £32 for one of the roasts, and it worked really well last year. But something happened last year, and it was regarding the pricings of something, and I think it was actually the gravy, and it was £1 on the list, and this person just piped up out of the blue, "Oh, well, it's only 75p at B&M." Do you know what? I did bite. I did bite and pointed out that A, I'm not a car driver, so I can't drive around value. And B, to be quite honest, I need 2 jars of it. And to save 50p, would it be worth the petrol to go from one shop to another shot. And it was just one of those, and I just thought, yeah, people just want to sit in this negative side of things because it's easy, because I don't really have to do it much effort. Oh, it's going to be horrible. Oh, this is not going to be good. Oh, how can we work? How can we bring in that effect? How can we bring in that change to, bring that bit of sunshine back in? Bring that joy and hope. Well, I like that phrase as well, joy and hope.
What Belinda said, that I believe is the answer to that, is deciding you're enough.
Yes, definitely. Not the comment I've just highlighted, the next flight attendant, it's always gin o'clock somewhere. But yeah, that works as well.
Yeah, and that's not an easy thing, I guess that personally for me, that is why I sit every day, is so I can not wake up and go about my day grumpy, and that's just my for me, my self healing of my awareness, my mind, so it can start in that space and the day in a beautiful space, and it's allowing that part of you to not let in the nonsense of life and so on, and the self-criticism of self and so on. And it's not an easy task. And personally, for me anyway, it's something that's worked at every day. But at the same time, it's acknowledging it first and then thinking, now, what am I going to do to change this? I feel this is only, again, I can only talk from my experiences. I mean, I'm just because it seems to be all about me as I'm saying this, but I know that others can get a lot from this too. And I feel that music has got something beautiful that can offer. It can offer, because there's an expression of the soul. If we listen to the beauty of music and something that really can move you, touch you, or add positivity within your life, because it creates feeling and emotion, and therefore that feeling and emotion can take presidency within your awareness, and therefore change that perception in some sense.
Definitely.
What grows from that, and then
Definitely. And I think there are so many auditory or visual aids for us to, you just go at this time of year. I was just looking at the trees over the road there and the colours and, even the sound of the leaves falling. And it's just like, that's beautiful. I love it, So there is, if we can get that awareness of, we're all going to get down days. We're not immune to this by any means whatsoever. But do we do enough to develop that awareness, that recognizing when we have those down days and just saying, okay, well, tomorrow's a brand new day, tomorrow's a new start, and we're going to move on. We're going to be more positive. Lovely Susan, she says, I feel sometimes that people have forgotten to be kind. Yeah. And she goes on to say, I do not know why or how, but the only thing we can do is not respond to unkindness with unkindness. Always be kind, no matter what the situation. Yeah, really true. I've gone through a few things over the last few months with various people. And it's been really easy to start an all-out row. And I'm just like, number one, I really haven't got the energy to start rowing. Number two, if that's what you genuinely feel, that's absolutely fine. That's your world. That's what you're living with.
It's a hard thing sometimes. Just it feels like if somebody has been like sharp with you or negative in some sense, it's a hard thing just to bottle it up in some way. And really, at the end of the day, we're just doing our best to not add to something that we could create greater conflict. And I guess that's that you being that better person. And again, and that's you being you. And as Belinda mentioned, it's you accepting that you are enough in some sense, that you are honouring who you are, not to respond.
Yeah. Be Susie Woodley, she's saying she agrees with you. Sitting every day gives us a space for self-compassion. Yeah, very good. Lovely. Esmeralda, it's understanding that some people are on their own level and the only thing we can do is feedback with love. There are so many who don't know how because of their life, so show them good. Beautiful.
That's a really nice point.
It is. Yeah. And Susan picks up on that theme as well. And if we find we cannot respond in the manner we ought, the nod, smile, and walk away method works for me too. Yes. I was saying a few years ago in my addresses, and I think it was part of, and I know it was part of my learning for that time, and saying, when we have these discords and arguments, it's a bit like a game of table tennis, and all we're doing is batting that energy backwards and forwards, and it's getting faster and more violent. The only way you're going to actually win that match is just put the bat down. Walk away. Because what the other person thinks of us is none of our business.
And sometimes even if it's not just for thoughts, it's the part of, I'm not telling everyone to do this, you'll know what is good for you, but honouring self is sometimes knowing that we are enough and we have to walk away, so we are not putting up with other people's or certain individuals' constantness of making you feel a bad way in some sense. You're being good to you, and therefore then that person will have no choice but to eat their words, or just that's where they are in their, that's the wrong thing to say for me, but that's that's them where they are in their journey, in their life, in their unfoldment, and their evolving. Yeah.
And if we're totally honest with ourselves and go back over our own timeline, did we ever behave like that? That was a good question. And if we did, why did we change? So, lovely Belinda, I like this. Best to practice what we preach. If we had a day to live, how would we react?
Wow. She should write a book.
Yeah.
Some really good points there. I'm certainly not devaluing everyone else. Absolutely not, because everyone's got really, really good points there. But it's really, really touched me, that. And if that's okay with you, Belinda, I might use that in one of my addresses sometime. One of my philosophies.
And again, this is what we were about. Why don't
you...
You said working on a book, and she's working on it. I'll buy a copy of that because I know it's going to be fun. But I know one thing. How would we react? Number one, I'll take up smoking again. But I don't know how else I'd react after that first cigarette. But
that's a great title of a fab address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting people talking to me. Thank you, Belinda.
I'll get people to talk to you.
But yeah, it's really interesting tonight because, the discussion, not planned, but not orchestrated by us, but obviously by those who go before us. And it comes back to the self-development, the self-awareness. So when we think, are we missing something in spiritualism? I think that's a very big part of the answer, because I think if we had that more self-awareness and self-development within our movement, would we see what we're seeing? And I don't think we would. Seriously, I really don't think we would. So, lovely Esmeralda, if you give a gift and you take it, it's yours. If I give you a gift and you don't take it, it's mine. The same thing with negative reactions from others. Yeah? Yeah.
You should write a book too.
Yeah. Linda?
This is brilliant. I'm just loving this.
Cool. Steve's writing all this down, by the way. We've got 2025 theme for addressing. But again, you know, this is a beautiful, wonderful, and so valuable part of our movement. And it's often neglected so much because we want to be the platform medium, we want to be the trance medium, we want to be the fantastic spirit artist. Why can't we just be the person giving out thoughts and ideas and sharing these timeless little moments? Again, going back on the pioneer side, I was reading Stanton Moses again yesterday, and funny enough, it's his birthday today. But that was written in 1876. And do you know what? It talks about the world outside our doors today. And I look in the movement and look for that same level of inspiration and timeless, enduring philosophy. And it's very rare. It's very rare. Because it's not the golden boy, is it, of our movement? Let's be honest. You know, if you said to 10 people off the street, do you want to be an evidential medium or a philosopher? What they're all going to go for? What do you think, Stephen?
If we took 10 people off the street and said that to them, I guess it depends who they are, but I'd say a great majority of them would say I don't want to be any of them. I just want to be me. I just want to be the mum. I want to be the dad or the son, or live my life and fulfill myself, my soul, in some way. That's being honest.
Yeah.
That's what
I
think.
That is absolutely wonderful. I cannot remember where I read this. I think it may have been out of the Inner Sanctuary stables, but it said about, you know, we're striving to be this sort of medium, that sort of medium. What about celebrate? It was in Magician to Mystic, Simon James Brian Roberts. What's the matter with being, you know, if you're going to be a wonderful homemaker, a brilliant skilled parent, a wonderful baker, you know, because all these things, if we excel in the field where we are really happy, we are still going to touch the lives just as much as we would do if we delivered a very good standard of communication. Because, you know, a family celebration, you open the box and there's this beautiful cake there. You've just created this memory for a family you've never known or never met, but you do it because you love doing it. You know, if you provide a wonderful, warm, encouraging home environment, who's to say that, you know, the children, when they leave home, are not going to be great leaders or great whatevers because of the upbringing they had. But, you know, and this ties in nicely with what you were saying, the cart before the horse, because we're chasing to be this and that. Why don't we just be happy with what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Belinda Dickinson, to be in the service to spirit, it's essential to be in service to ourselves first, to being the best version of ourselves, always. Yeah? Yeah, agree totally.
It's what you're planting in the minds of others. And sometimes it's just being you, and it's not about. No, I'm not saying it's not about, but great if it is, if that's your path. It's not always about being like the biggest and best athlete of the whole world, or the biggest, best medium of the whole world, or anything like that. It's just being. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh,
What?
I forgot what I was going to say there. My little thoughts just drifted, but it will come back. But you carry on, Lawrence, and it will come back. Believe me.
This is not blowing my trumpet. It's just something that fits in nicely with this conversation. I did a talk for an online group just recently, and at the end of it, one of the presenters who I respect very much for their work that they do in the spirit world, and they went, "Do you know what, Lawrence? The one thing about you is what you see is what you get, and you just don't change it." And she said, "I think that's great." And I thought, I'm taking that. I like that. I like that.
But there's something more going on there, Lawrence, and that is the richness of just your presence, of you being you, and that leads on to that little thought that drifted away. Because I've yes, I told you I would come back if I don't consciously search for it. That's all. Will bring it to me. And that was, I've forgotten again. No, I'm only joking. It is, because you talked about being the mum or being the dad or being the friend or whatever. Sometimes there's no words that are needed. There's many times, and especially for me, with my mum, for example, if I'm going through a tough time or a rubbish time or whatever, I can go and sit there, just be in her presence. I don't even have to talk about anything. Don't have to talk about anything at all. But that atmosphere, the space that's created without any words, it just makes everything feel okay again. And I guess that's what, when we look at that soul presence first, you see, because that's what needs to bring into strength if we're working with mediumship, gain strength. So your presence could be alive in a space, in a room, to envelop the room or people. Them and those in the spirit world come close and blend with that soul self. That's when their presence, their feeling, their emotions can be so much more than words. It's that expression, just being in that space. I've had many people that have come for a reading, for example, and just walked into the room. Nothing's been done, but they'll just start crying, but in a beautiful way, and wondering, why am I crying? Not me, but them, wondering, why am I crying? And it's just that presence has started to present itself. It speaks so much more, and that's the imprint that we will leave on others. I feel that for me, that's the most important part that we can embrace people with in this life. And that comes by honoring your true nature, your true self. Therefore, you give it that freedom of expression. We mentioned before today about, say, I used the analysis of a couple of house plants. Say a house plant, for example, will grow great in, say, direct sunlight, and some not in grow so great in direct sunlight. And if you put the ones that don't grow great in direct sunlight, and then that nourishment isn't there, they're not going to grow as much, because it's natural law, it's that nature of what that plant is. It's not going to grow in that space. And then we've got to ask ourselves, what environment are we creating for ourselves? What environment are we creating? Because if we create it for ourselves, we're creating it for others. That's what I do know. And that's what's going to lift people. And then with words, it carries feeling and meaning behind it, touches the minds of those that listen, and therefore just brings a realization to them that you are worth so much more than the self-criticism and so on that we give ourselves.
Yeah. And unfortunately, so many are getting lured away by the material worth and the material gain of the world.
I would still have that Mercedes though.
Oh yeah,
or that go-kart.
I'll still have a holiday in Barbados. Or a holiday in the Isle of Wight. That'd be nice. Lovely Susan, and wonderful Oscar Wilde quote: "Just be yourself because everyone else is taken." So when we put so much energy into being like everyone else, we get lost in the human and disconnect with the spirit and soul. Yeah, so true. So true. And lovely Angela. And the language of our spirit is emotional on every level. Yeah. Stephen, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody. And I've got some really good friends in here as well. It's just, I'm just honoured to be in the company of everybody, and I've loved being nourished by everybody as well.
Yeah. The lovely thing about these Lyceums is we go away with thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, even if we don't agree, do you know what? If you don't agree with some of the ideas or the premises put across, brilliant. You know, that doesn't, it's not wrong. How we react to that can be a bit awry, but it's not wrong. I always say, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, that's great, because you've given this thought and you've got your own philosophy on it. And it's not for me to tell you how to think. You know, if I put, I don't know, 20 quid on the table and said to everybody in the room tonight, take that 20 quid, we're all going to spend it on something different. And that's fine. That's wonderful. And that's how we should be with information. You know, take it in. How does it resonate with you? Is it of use? Can you incorporate it? Is it going to sit there and come back later? Does it solve a question, or does it ask a question? This is brilliant. So, thank you, everybody. Some wonderful comments coming in. So, there we go. A stimulating conversation.
Thank you, everybody.
Time to shine.
I look forward to that book.
Yes, definitely. And we're glad you got on, Susan. We do.
Yeah.
Susan, Stephen, and I. We had fun. No, that sounds wrong. We didn't stop laughing. Stephen arrived on the Thursday. Susan arrived on the Friday, and I think by Tuesday, I thought if I laugh anymore, my face is going to fall off, because it was just such good fun. It really was. Absolutely brilliant.
You can't not laugh around Susan's humour, and yourself as well.
Oh, it was.
I just try and blend in when I can.
Lovely Gail, what an amazing night. Lovely Esmeralda, darling. I hope to see you next year. That would be wonderful. If not on the course, just socially. That'd be great. She's an amazing lady. And Susan said, yes, we did. We did have lots of laughter, lots of fun. And do you know what? It worked, didn't it? Everything worked. That was good. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Remember, you can watch a live service streamed live from here at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. At 12 noon, you can follow Susan Hughes, Brothwood Hughes, and she will be presenting the Nothing Fancy Online Spiritualist Church at 12 o'clock. So you can have 2 hours of spiritual church services. How wonderful. Next Saturday, I'll have Jason Goldsworthy, CSNU, with me for conversation on the Lyceum. And the Saturday after that, we have Tim Abbott will actually be here in person taking a 2-day trance course.
Brilliant.
So he will be here, which is always nice when we've got somebody here. Like, shush. I won't do that. Tim's bigger than me.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. If you've got pets, give them another little hug, because my little baby girl is just going into meltdown here at the moment. So bless her heart. Look after yourselves, and we shall see you when we see you. So good night, everybody.